Okay, in this video, this is the second part of Python with SQLite. And what we're going to look at today is how to do an SQL query. So what we've got here so far is a function that's called con, which returns two variables, the DB, which is the connection, and this cursor that we need to use to actually do an SQL statement. Then we've got our query here, and within the query, what we want to do is also return something. So we would want to return the data, which we currently don't have, right? So we've got this fetch all and data, we'd want to return that, and then we would want to use it in our web report. Okay, so the first thing what we'll want to do is we'll turn this one web report off for the moment, so it's not doing it, and we're going to turn on our query. So we'll just write query, open and close brackets. So this is just to turn this query on. Now, what we'll need to do is get the database. Now, I've got JX11 cars DB. This is one that you did from the very first exercise. So if you don't have the database file, you can download it from my website where you find the video for this exercise. Okay, so that will be available. And then you download it, or you use the one that you had on your computer that you did for the previous exercise. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just look for this file. So here I've got the connection in between the quotes, and I'm just going to put jxii cars.db. I don't think it's case sensitive, that has to be in caps, but I'm just doing it in caps because that's the same way as it is here. So I've got the name of the file now, and my SQL report Python file is here, and the DB is here. So they're both in the same sort of folder, or they're both on the desktop in my case. So that means it'll just look for it in that location. Right, so the next thing what we want to do is think about how to do a report or an SQL statement. So I'm just going to do it on a new line here and tab that in a couple, and we just write the same as you've done before. So we're going to do select, and we're going to do the one that we did where we were looking for micro Z and micro Z car, and if the car was sold or not. Okay, so we're going to say select VIN. So it's exactly the same as you did using the DB browser, but in this situation, you notice that, of course, it doesn't come up with the name of the table, the fields for us. So we do have to actually remember what they are, how they're written. So obviously you can open up the database. You can just double click and do that. Okay, so I'm going to do engine size, price, and then color. So I'm going to just try this one. Color, location, and then sold. So these are all the fields that I want. And I'm going to then just say from JX11 cars, which is the JXii cars, which is the name of the table within the JXii cars database. And then I'm going to just do where clause. So where the model is equal to micro Z and sold is equal to 0. And then we can also do order by, and we'll say VIN ascending. Okay, so that is our selection statement, and what we want to do is just test if this works. So I did 3 things. I did the turned off web report, so it's not been used at the minute, so this one is not happening. Turned on the query, so it's just that query. I then put in the database name, right? Made sure that database is in the same folder or on the desktop with my Python file, my SQL report. I've then written the SQL statement within this cursor.execute and 3 double quotes, 3 double quotes and 3 double quotes down here. So then I've got data equals cursor.fetch all and then database close. The last thing I'll want to do is just to test it, which will be then to print data to see what we get if we actually get something from the database. So I'm just going to, this is just to test it, and this will appear in the shell, okay? So let's run that, run module, and hopefully it'll come up the shell. There we go. It's all come up there. Now, what we can notice with it is that it comes up in a list. So you remember lists, we had this square brackets here. So you got a square bracket at the front, you got a square bracket at the end. So that is a 1D array, which is a one-dimensional array. That's what 1D stands for. And you can see then we've got these other brackets, these parenthesis brackets. We've got square bracket at the front and square bracket at the end. Then we've got parenthesis bracket here and parenthesis bracket here. So what this tells me is this is another type of an array, and this is called a tuple. Now, what does a tuple mean? Well, a tuple is a bit like a constant, which means it can't be changed. Okay, so instead of having a list with a square bracket and another square bracket, it's essentially, because this information's come from the database, it's not something that we can actually then manipulate or change, but we can display it, of course. We can use it to display it. Now, of course, we don't want it displayed like this. This seems a bit crazy to just display it all in this way. So what we want to do is look at how to get a bit of the information organized specifically. So what we're going to do is use for loops for doing that. So I can now know that print data works. I'm going to, instead of print data, I'm going to write return data and take away that bracket again. Okay, so just like we did up above here, we're going to return DB and cursor. Here we're going to return the data. So we're doing this query and returning the data. Okay, so then the next thing we want to do is run this query from within web report. So I'm going to take query away down here again, turn back on web report, and this time just above file, I'll put it up here. It doesn't actually matter too much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write data, which is the same name as this, but what you got to remember is this data is a local variable. Local meaning it's only accessible within query. So what I'm doing here is passing data to be used elsewhere. So I'm going to say data is equal to query. Sounds a bit weird when you're doing this the first time, or when you've done it the first few times, what we're happening here, but it's the same as what we did here, is we ran the connection, whatever connection returns gets put into these two variables. Same with here, whatever query returns gets put into data. So basically data gets put into data. That's essentially what's happening there. Right, so just runs query. I'm going to write there. Okay, so that's what we've done for this bit. We've run the query. Now we've got data which we can now filter and use. So we've actually done the filter. Our SQL statement does the filter, but what we want to do is organize it. That's essentially what we want to do here, because we've got it all like this as a big blurb of data, and we want to look at how to get it into a table here. So what we have to do is create a table. Now, if you have never seen HTML before, we'll just go to W3 Schools. It's a good website. And we'll look at a basic table format so you understand what that is, right? So here we've got Learn HTML on the left and down to HTML tables. Okay, so here we go. Here's just showing you an example of a table, right? So how does it work? Well, you define the table, and in this case we've got company, contact, country. These are all headings. So headings are TH to do those. But what you can see here, I've got a TR open, TR close, TR open, TR close, TR open, TR close. Okay, and then the table close. So we've got a table, we've got an attribute in there that says the style width is 100%, and then you got table close at the end. Okay, now that means if you think about this, this has got how many rows? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. In this example here, this has only got 3 rows. It's got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's what it does. If we did try ourselves in here, you would see that this one would actually have more. So here you can see down in the table, there's a lot more TRs in this example, right? Because I've got TR here, which is the top row that says company, contact, country. You can see those. And the TH makes them a bit bolder, so it's like table header or table heading. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now the TDs stand for table data, and that is each one of the cells. So this cell or this cell is its own TD, and they all have TD open, TD close. Okay, so that is just the lowdown on tables. You can obviously look at this in your own time if you need to understand it and go over it a little bit more. So what we're wanting to do is get a table of this information. So how do we do it? Well, here, first of all, we think it depends on our query. So our query is based on that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns. That's what we would want to do, is 8 columns across, and then whatever number. So we can't even see really how many records that we've got from this, but we could probably find out. But it's not actually necessary to need to know that, because we want to make this table so that it can change according to whatever SQL statement we put in here. Okay, so we can do different types of reports. Right, so let's get started. What we're going to do is we've got this file.write, which is fine. Goes down to body, but then we've got h1, p1, rp, and so on here. And then we've got the body closed and the HTML closed. So what we're going to do is take these ones out, these last ones, and just remember that we have to put those in later. And from h1, after that, what we will do, maybe we'll put center in here. So I'm going to put center to center everything on the page. And center spelled the American way, so ER instead of RE. And then I'm going to put a table. So we're going to do table. And with the table, we're going to just put a width on it. So we're going to say width equals, I'm going to do 50%, so half of the screen size. And then I'm going to do border equals 1, just so that we can see it. Okay, otherwise it'll be invisible. And then what we're going to do is our TR. So to do the TR, what we need to do is start off with TR. Right, so TR like this. So this will be our first row that we're going to set up. Now, with the first row, what we will want to do with that is set it up so that we have the information from data, which we have here, which is all of this information. Now, what we have to do with that is write some for loops, and this is where you can see for loops becoming quite useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, 4x in data, let's say, or I'm going to say y for y in data. So y in data is going to be essentially this whole line is going to be y, right? Or even if I did use x, right? So if I did x, doesn't really matter. Just showing you that you can change these differently. So x in data, the first time it's going to be this one, then it's going to be the next one, and so on and so on, right? So it's all of this information, but I want to display this one in one cell and then this one and this one. So I have to do a for loop within a for loop here. So this is going to be a little bit complicated when you first see it. So we say 4x in data, underneath then I'm going to write, in actual fact, what I need to do is take this tr and put it in there. So I'm going to leave that one out and put it in here. So I'm going to say file dot write, and I'm going to write a tr. So this is my first row. Okay, so I'm going to do that. You can do this in double quotes like you see here. Oops, I did a quotes like that. Okay, so I'm going to write that first, and that will be for the first row. Okay, so that will be, this information is going to go into the first row, and then I'm going to need to do something else. I want to need to then do another for loop. So 4x, instead of 4x, I'm going to do 4y. So y is going to be this one inside of x. Okay, so 4y in x. All right, so remember, if I show you what we're talking about here, I'll just put this over to the side a little bit, maybe switch this down, just bring this in a little bit so you can see it. There you go. Right, so if you remember, this is X in data, right? So all of this whole first row is X. We only need to think about this first one because it's going to do the same for all of them. So 4X in data, all of this is data, this is X. And then 4Y in X, this is Y the first time, then this one's the second time it does it. Because remember, this is a count control loop, so it's going to do this the amount of times that we have data inside of data. So I'll do 4Y and X, and then I'm going to do file.write, open the brackets, and we're going to then create a TD. So just like we saw here, we have our, look at this example, we got TR that we've opened. Now we need to do a TD for the first one, then for the second, third, and so on. But we do this within a loop, so we only have to write it once. We don't have to write all these TDs all the time. So I'm doing quotes, and then I'm going to do TD open. And then I need to do a plus sign to put it together. Sorry, after the quotes, plus sign. And then I need to put Y in there. So Y is going to be this one first. So Y there, then I do plus, and then I close the TD. So this is the first cell closed, close brackets. So remember, you have to do these plus signs so that this all goes together as one big chunk. So that's file.write for that. And that's going to do several TDs, okay? And then just the same as this, I need to close the TR for that first row. So underneath, then backspace, so it's on the same as this. Paste that there again, but instead of just TR by itself, I put the / to close that TR. And then after that, we're pretty much finished. So what I want to do is go back out to here. So that's the full for loop. So there's two for loops here. So one loop that goes through the whole of data and another loop that goes through this information specifically. And here then I'm just going to write file.write and close up the tags that I haven't closed yet. So I'm just going to look at what tags I need to do. I need to do HTML, body, center, and table. Okay, so we need to do it in the order, backwards order. So it was table, center, body, right? So double quotes, inside the quotes, / table, right? So that's closing the table. Then we close the next one up, which is center. Make sure, oops, didn't do the /. And then I close the body, so / body, and then I close the HTML, and then close my parenthesis brackets on the very end. Okay, so that is, I might actually just do that like that, and then put that down there. Okay, so going over it again, we've done a multiple line HTML to start off the document, which is a one-off. And then this bit happens whatever number of records I have. So if I've got like 200, this will happen 200 times. And this one will happen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times within those 200 records, for example. So that would be the way it works, right? Let's have a look and run it. So we're going to just check. We're running web report again. We've got the query that we're running, and then we're going to get data into there, and then it's going to then appear in our report, hopefully. So if I close the shell, just run that one, you will see nothing comes up in the shell anymore. Oh, something did come up. So we got string not int to string. So it's saying that y, there is a problem with y here where y might be an integer, which is interesting that that could happen. So if that's the case, what do we need to do? Well, we just want to change it, right? So we just change it to a string format. So let's have a look here. I'm just going to do str, open, and close those brackets around that y. And let's have a look and see if that works this time. Oh, and it opened. Oh yeah, that's right. We did that, so it opened it as well. And there we go. Right. So, of course, I forgot that we had already done this bit at the end where it automatically opens up your web browser. So we've got the report. Wow, that is magical, as you can see. Right. So there we've done an SQL statement from our database and we've put it into a web page and we've got it into sort of reasonably nice format. But you might notice that we are missing something. What are we missing? We are missing the headings at the top. Now, of course, you could manually add to the table and manually then just put the same ones that you put into your SQL statement, Vin, model, and so on. But it would be better if we could make this a little bit more automated so that if we changed our SQL statement, that all the information would just change automatically. So even if you change the field names that you want to display, if I took sold away, for example, that it would automatically just come up with everything except for sold. So what we can do is actually we can execute another cursor up here. So we can call this one inner query where we've got our data. We can also get the field names. So we'll call this field names, something like that, this variable. And it is cursor dot description. Okay, so cursor dot description, but does that work? Well, what we want to do is test it. So we're going to do a print and field names. So you can say I do this quite a lot just to print out the shell. What is going on here? Okay, so if I print that, run this again, here we go. I saw something come up in the shell, and there we have it, right? So what we're getting here is it's giving us Vin, you can see, then it's giving us model, power, engine size, price. So it's giving us these names, but then it's giving all the rest of them as being none. So it's going through one at a time. So what we want to do is join these together. So we'll look at a specific way. I'll show you how to do this. Don't worry about how this is exactly done because this is a little bit more advanced. But what you can do with lists is you can map them to be together. Okay, so this little bit, I did a Google search to find out how to do it as well because I didn't know either. But this will just solve some of our problems, okay, for getting the bits that we need. So you do this list map. What we can do is like you can change things from being like a tuple into a list or a string and things like that. So that's what this list map does. Okay, so we're going to be basically mapping all those descriptions into being just one list. So I've done that comma there and then close brackets, got two brackets to close, right? So now we've made this field names into a list. Hopefully it will print out as a list. So if I run that again, there you go, I did see it come up. And there it is, right? So I've got VIN, model, power, engine size, price, color, location, sold as a list, which is absolutely perfect because then I can just drop that into my table. So what we want to do to drop it into the table, we want them to be as our headings up above here. So let's look at how to do that. So I want to take out that print field names because I know it works now, and we'll just leave that like so. But we need to pass it into web report. So I'm going to just double click on it, copy, return field names and data, and then over here I'm just going to do field names, comma, data. So I've passed field names and data into field names and data here. So now I've got field names which I can use. Okay, so now back to our web page, we have to now edit it a little bit. So we've got this table as you can see before. We've got this TR which we're creating here, but what we want to do is just create another one, right? So I'm actually going to put, I did do this earlier, so it's funny that I'm doing it again. So here I'm going to put TR in there. So this creates one TR for the top row. And then what we will do is just create before this for loop, another for loop. So I'm just going to do 4Z. So I've got X and Y that I'm using. So 4Z in field names this time. Right, so 4Z in field names. I'm wanting to do file dot, and as I'm sure you can imagine, file dot write, and we're basically going to do the same as this, right? But we can do it with th if you want. So we can do that. So we'll do table heading. So this will automatically kind of put them in bold, plus the Z, and we'll check it to see if it comes up with an error, but it probably should come just as a string. I noticed whenever we were running our query, or sorry, printing the field names, they came out in quotes. So that was something that you could see happening there. So file.write th, and then sorry, double quotes, bracket, and then close that th for that table heading, like that. Right, and then what do we got to finish? We got to finish file.write and just close that tr. So the reason I'm not doing it within this loop, because you only want this tr to happen once. You don't want it to happen several times. So this will just do it once to close that first row. So this is like the first row here, which will do these table headings for us. And then this bit will do each row, right? All of these rows loads of times. So you can see that it's quite nice that you can do these loops, and you can sort of do a tiny bit of HTML, but you just have to be, of course, organized and know how to do this. Now, I've done this before, so I'm making it look simple. Of course, if you were to do this yourself, you'd be doing a trial and error a lot of the time, and you would see your table wasn't working out correctly and things like that. But in this sense, what I wanted to do is to show you that you can do this, and we want to really concentrate on doing more database stuff. So we're going to do it with our report here. So let's try it out. I'm going to run it. And oh my goodness, it looks amazing. There you go, you got VIN, model, power, engine size, price, color, location. Fantastic. So it's come out as a table, and it's in a web page. And this is just like a report. So this is essentially what a report is from a database on a website. So a website like Amazon, as I mentioned before, or Facebook would be creating these SQL statements on the fly, which will let you look at your content. Right? And the same with things like Instagram, where you're on Instagram, you're sharing photos and stuff. It would be getting all this information stored in the database. So we're just doing it obviously with text. It's a little bit more complicated where you're wanting to get things like images and things like that, because you have to refer to file locations, folder locations, and so on. But this is really nice that we've been able to create this report right like that. Okay, so the next thing we can do is just try one last report. So the last one that we can do would be the one that we did. It was the second report that we had to do, and that was where it was for Geldorf, if I was right, sort of like a report on how he was doing work-wise. So it was this one here, and I've got select salesperson, and what we want to do is just check that this web report works fine. Now, you're going to want to hand this web report into me with your SQL report.python file. So I'm going to call this web report A for now, right? And then we can do another one called B. So we'll change it to B afterwards. You could obviously change it in here, but then you would have to change it down here too in order for it to open. Okay, so let's have a look at how to do this one. So if we want to just check that this table and everything works just fine, that it's always going to adapt to whatever fields we have. So here we've got, instead of VIN and so on, we're going to take these ones out, and I'm going to say sales underscore person model price. And then we're going to try this where we were doing these fields that don't exist. So price multiplied by discounts applied. Applied like that as discounts, comma. Oh, forgot the comma up here. I need a comma there. And then I'm going to just do dates underscore sold, comma, and then we'll do another one. We'll do then price minus price multiplied by discounts underscore sold. Sorry, discount applied, wasn't it? Yeah. Applied as sale price. Get the spelling right, and then we also want to have sold on the end of that. I could do that on a new line, or I could just do it like that there. The same with dates, it sold. I could just put it on there, like so it's a little bit less line, a few less lines. What you don't want is just all the text to go right over off your screen as such. That's all that those new lines are. Now remember, from JXII cars, the last one doesn't need a comma. So what we're doing, we're saying where's sold. We've got sold already. So where sold is equal to -1 this time. And all right, so this is where we add the dates and that. So we add the dates. Sold like quotes 2012. Right, so this was the wild card, right? And salesperson is equal to Geldorf, right? So, and salesperson is equal to Geldorf. Okay, so that then got those quotes there. And then order by model, ascending order. Okay, so just double check it before you try it. Hopefully what this is going to do, because I've changed web report to web report A, we'll get another web report here, and it should hopefully, fingers crossed, work just fine. So I'm going to run the module, see if we get any errors with this. Okay, so it's created another web report, and it's opened for me, and it's perfect, absolutely perfect. And this looks really nice. Okay, now the only thing that we haven't done yet, and we could probably do in another lesson, is look at how to maybe edit some of this information, say for example in discount possibly, where we would get the euro signs or change the information so it's decimal points, you know, so we could do a float for example there. And I don't know if we could change this sold to say yes or no in Python. We could definitely have a look into it, but there's a few different options that we might want to look at. But the important thing is with our table is the table that we created in HTML, all of this stuff here, that this is now adaptable. Okay, so it's adaptable according to any select SQL statements that we create. So you can see that in this one we have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields. In web report A, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fields, right? So it's created this table according to the fields, which is really nice. So if I just close this Safari here, I'm going to call that web report B. So I've got web report A, B, and the SQL Python file. If you upload those three for this exercise to be complete.